So if you remember, at the beginning of the session, we always put forth our agenda. What are we going to cover this legislative session? And I think it helps us keep focused during the legislative session, because you and I know that a lot of people know us at the Capitol. They know a lot about AARP. They want our brand. They want us to be involved. They know that we can move policy issues forward, but we wanted to make sure that we were focused on the issues that were important, not just to our organization, but really the members at large, that these are the issues that we want you to focus on this session. So I would say of all bills that I've ever worked on, I think this was the one I had to work the hardest on. And I haven't been doing policy, I've been doing policy for a long time, but I think this fraud bill, significant win. We are one of two states. We were the second state in the nation to pass House Bill 1447. Every bill is going to look a little bit different. It was modeled after a bill that our national office put together. What we know is that fraud evolves every day, that there's a new type of fraud, there's a new tool that criminals use to scam folks out of money. The newest one, and we were really tipped off on this from our government affairs team, that this is a trend that we're seeing more of. Over $6 million in North Dakota alone was lost to this cryptocurrency fraud. So this, by and large, huge win, huge topic that legislators really kind of were not sure about, because we know that cryptocurrency is a legitimate thing, and that we know we didn't want to interfere with that ability. But we know these kiosks, and you're going to see them at grocery stores, you're going to see them at the mall, you're going to see them at convenience stores. They look like an ATM. So what this bill does, we knew they were not regulated. They weren't licensed in the state.
It was a shock to both of us.
Just looking at them, you walk by them in the mall and you would never know that they weren't just another ATM, but then people would start asking questions about how these are used. And so what this bill will help prevent fraud. It's going to look at licensing these cryptocurrency ATMs in the state. We're going to impose daily transaction limits. And that was a really big sticking point for folks, because we wanted to make sure that there wasn't a way that a criminal could continue to get you to go to 3 or 4 different machines and keep drawing down money. So this is going to limit the amount of money that can be used in these currency kiosks. It's going to put warnings on there so that if you go to that, if you're being told by someone that's calling you, again, it's going to be a sense of urgency. They're going to say, I need you to go to one of these cryptocurrency ATMs. I need you to put money in there. What it's going to do is put a warning. So again, it's those red flags that we want folks to say, maybe this isn't a good thing. Maybe I should ask questions. Maybe I should go to talk to somebody to see if this is a thing that we should do. It requires terms and conditions to be displayed, including any fees that will be charged. And then the receipts piece is really key, because law enforcement often need those tangible items to say, we know that a criminal called you, they told you to go to one of these kiosks, they told you to take money out of your bank, insert it into this ATM, and then law enforcement's able to really have the tools they need to go and do the investigative pieces. And again, we know that fraud, besides prescription drugs, this is calls that we receive. We've got great partners, new partners, as you saw on that screen. We couldn't have done this without partners from the Attorney General's office, from the Department of Financial Institutions. This was a new avenue for all of us. But I think we learned so much about how these are being used, why it's important to regulate them and make sure there's protections around there, but also just to educate the community and partners about it. So
I just need to interject a couple of things here. The first of which is to, again, say thank you to our volunteers, because in addition to the hard work you put in, and I knew countless times you were texting me with different frustrations this is part of the legislative sausage making, right? It twists and turns and wheels and goes. But I think by and large, the reason we were successful here was when we reached out to, specifically, I want to point out our Speakers Bureau folks who do a ton of fraud presentations. When we asked them, hey, we need you to contact your legislators now, we know what happened, because we were hearing from legislators about, oh, clearly this is something that you guys are hot on. It's like, if it wasn't enough, the fact that we were all wearing bright red coats the day of the hearing on this bill as part of it. But I just want to take a second to again say thank you to those of you watching live, or if you're watching this later. I mean it when I say that was a huge, important step that kind of helped. And it's funny how that we timed that well. And again, back to a team effort. It was Doreen and Wendy behind the scenes helping get volunteers organized, and that kind of helped we got kind of to a logjam point, and it kind of helped break that loose to at least keep things moving forward and keep things going, in addition to the daily pressure you were putting on, the daily pressure I was putting on, the phone calls, the emails, the paid advertising. We didn't even talk about any of that. But this bill, I'm super proud of, super excited about. The second thing is, I don't think it should go without saying that to get a bill of this nature through on the first try does not happen very often. And the fact that it did happen, and it happened in a very, very good format. Like we're likely going to have to continue to work and massage what this law looks like in future sessions. But to get to the point we got to with that daily transaction limit of $2,000, that is huge. We heard stories from North Dakotans, from folks outside of North Dakota about, losing upwards of $20,000 in these cryptocurrency kiosk machines. I think there's an instance in a story, not from North Dakota, where a convenience store clerk put a seat down in front of one of these machines because somebody was feeding so much money into them. And now having that daily transaction limit, in addition to the warning notices and the receipt, to be able to kind of give people that pause, I think is really important. Last, not only was fraud a huge advocacy priority, it's a huge education priority for us. We were just out in Western North Dakota yesterday doing our Fraud Fest 2025 tour. We've already been to Mina. We've done some online stuff. There's more coming up, so encourage folks to check out our Fraud Fest 2025 tour as well. I know you want to get to our bill sponsor here before we leave this topic.
Yeah, when we looked at partners, the bankers and the Bankers
Yeah,
Association
yeah.
really was top of mind because they are the most regulated industry. They were seeing some concerns that they had from their consumers, and that was a partner. And we went to Representative Steve Swantek out of Fargo, retired business and banker. He really was very invested in this issue from the very beginning, knowing that it was really a key piece to help his constituents, other constituents from preventing fraud. And so we're excited to have him on screen with us now to talk about why he sponsored the bill and what he really feels is why it's important.
My name is Steve Swantek, State Representative from District 10 in South Fargo. House Bill 1447 really protects citizens of North Dakota, in fact, anyone that would use a cryptocurrency kiosk in the state of North Dakota. And I really learned a lot from AARP as far as what they have experienced with individuals all across the nation concerning fraudulent issues when it comes to cryptocurrency. And what they're finding, and what we're even finding in North Dakota, is that 2 years ago, over $6 million of fraud was due to individuals using cryptocurrencies. And it's lightly regulated or hardly regulated. And now with this new legislation, it's really going to protect people because unfortunately, a lot of times, individuals may be embarrassed. They may not bring it to the attention of law enforcement. And this really puts the onus on the owner of these kiosks to make sure that they are doing everything possible to protect the users of the currency kiosks.
He had just come out of a conference committee, and I caught him in the hall. We'd been going back and forth for a week to kind of do that. But you could tell that he was coming out of a conference committee. He was, sidetracked by some appropriations bills that he was working on. But you can see from that video how important that issue was for him. He was able to sit down and talk with me, about what it is. And we wouldn't have been able to do that work without him. He really did a lot of the behind the scenes work with his colleagues that I can't do.
I'm glad you mentioned that.
He really does. And I think it's because he dug into the issue, not just from the banking side of things, but he really heard the stories and he knew that there were small things that the state could do, and this was the vehicle for it, even to the point when we were trying to negotiate. I know you talked about it as sausage making, and a lot of people that aren't there every day don't see what happens. They might see the committee hearing, they might watch the floor discussion, but a lot of the work does happen one-on-one with legislators. And we knew what the key pieces of the legislation that we wanted included. And there were some compromises that we had to make, and that's part of policy making. But ultimately, we knew we needed a strong foundation, and we wouldn't have been able to do that without Representative Swantek. He really held the line to say, no, these 4 things are the most important parts of the bill. How we get there,
Yep.
I'm not sure, but that's where we're gonna
Yep.
go, so.
And I'm glad you mentioned it, and that's why I wanted to come back to this just for a second after the video, because I think back to, we were a little we passed the House, wasn't in the greatest I mean, it was okay, but it wasn't great. We get to the Senate, we fixed it in the Senate and got it into a really good spot, and we were a little nervous about it going back to the House. And I think I will never forget turning on the floor discussion when the House, if you're not familiar, if the House and Senate pass different versions, there's kind of three or four, technically there's about 8, but there's kind of really 3 big ways that things can happen. There's essentially a conference committee, which is both sides appoint a couple of folks to negotiate and hammer out the differences. And we didn't think we needed that in this instance. There's that the House can go, or the second chamber in this instance, the House could just say, we concur with the changes. And if they do that, then there's one of 2 choices. They can say, we concur because we just don't think this bill is necessary anymore, or we concur because this bill's fine and good. We got the committee chairman and to concur in part because Representative Swantek saying, hey, this is in a good place, let's do that. But then more importantly, telling some of those folks, hey, if you want to vote against it, fine, but this is where this bill is going to end up. And I think having folks like Representative Swantek to be able to have those conversations, because those aren't conversations we can have with folks. We're good, but we're not that good and I think, again, I want to just lean into, before we get to this last item, the importance of you all speaking to legislators. Those conversations that Representative Swantek has only works when he knows that his colleagues are hearing from folks back home about the importance of this bill.